What is going on, everybody? In this video, I want to show how you can set up a Cloud SQL managed instance on GCP. So I started doing this video a few times now, didn't really like the flow of it, so I have the project already set up because some of the services or some of the things we're going to enable take a little bit of time to spin up. And it just kind of breaks up the cadence if I need to stop, pause, and come back. So I'm hopefully going to divide this up into kind of three sections, which is the Postgres managed service, setting up a compute instance to talk to that managed instance, and then actually writing some code to interact with the PostgresSQL instance in this case. So hopefully that made sense. So I guess why this video? Well, I think a lot of people are afraid of managed services on cloud providers, or just different services in cloud providers in general, because there'll always be those horror stories of someone picking the wrong instance type with a massive amount of GPUs, and then they get a surprise $20,000 bill after 5 minutes. So I wanted to slowly walk through this, show you there's nothing to fear if you kind of stay in the guidelines that I'm showing for starting Postgres. But also, I would never really use this myself. I do more personal projects and tinker around. You might use Postgres SQL managed instance at a company, or if you're working on, I don't know, maybe a product startup that you're thinking to launch commercially. If I were to do it, I would just do a compute instance and maybe spin up Postgres in Docker and use it like that. Okay, enough of that out of the way. Let's jump right in. So here I am in the GCP console, and see if I can make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to start a fresh project here, and you can ignore the project names. They really don't mean much. So demo SQL. Oh, sure. So it's going to be hidden circlet. I guess probably a lot of people have named theirs Postgres or something like that. So one thing, if you're not aware, is your project name. This is your friendly project name in your account, but to the rest of the world, if you're using Terraform or something like that, you're going to want this project ID. Just a quick aside there. Okay, so first things first, we're going to set up Postgres SQL as a managed service. To do that, just click on the little hamburger here, and we will scroll down to SQL and create an instance. We want PostgresSQL, and we do need to enable the API, and that will take a few moments. I did forget about that, so let me pause it here, and as soon as that's enabled, we'll pick back up. Alright, that wasn't too bad, just a minute or two. So right off the bat, we see it's going to cost us about $2 an hour. So let's knock that down as low as possible, just so you can play around. So first, Enterprise Plus, we're going to do just Enterprise, knocks off about 80 cents there. We are going to say we want a sandbox, so only 2 virtual CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM, 10 gigs of storage. And you can bump up the version, and you see when we did that, we're down to 14 cents per hour. But actually, I kind of take it as a challenge to get that as low as possible. For this one, this is how your instance is going to be known inside your project. Don't really need to worry about that. I'm going to set the password to test. horrible practice, but I'm going to delete this right away, so that's fine. And notice this isn't for a user called demo, it is for the admin user Postgres. So the admin of Postgres database, named Postgres, has the password test. One region is fine, Iowa is closest to me, and here's where we can drop that down even further. We can do a shared core, meaning other instances running in GCP will be sharing this with us. That's fine. Now we're down to 4 cents per hour. We can even drop down, we're splitting those two virtual CPUs. So now we're at 1 cent per hour. And a few things here that are kind of important. We can even drop that down. 31 cents per day. HDD is fine with me. Now we're at 28 cents. No automatic storage increases. That's probably just safer. In case for some reason you get into a loop of just inserting data. Okay, now to be safe, we're going to disable the public IP and we're going to want a private IP. In GCP, your project will come with a default network default. That's the one I'm using in this case. This is going to set up VPC peering with the VPC that compute instances are automatically dropped into. And I went ahead and made a very ugly chart to show that. We can just enable API here before we switch to that. And there we go. And I'm going to just be lazy. Automatically allocated IP range. GCP is nice enough to take care of that for me. And while that's going, so you can think of it this way. This is our project. In this case, you saw I just named it demo, I think. And so when you create compute instances, unless you change the configuration, they're going to drop into your default IP range, private IP ranges. They're not routable, probably 10 dot something. Well, when we make this PostgresSQL managed instance, it's going to put it in a VPC over here. And what we just did was we said, hey, make a tunnel for VPC peering because the internet doesn't know about the instances here unless they have a public IP. Chances are that's dynamic. It's going to change every time the instance is restarted. So this just makes it easier for it to not go out into the internet at all for the communication and just say, that guy is in this project and it's over here in this other VPC. And you can definitely ask ChatGPT about that or do some Googling if you're curious. Okay, data protection. I don't care about backups. If you do, leave that on. Now this one is important. Enable deletion protection. This tripped me up a while back when I first started playing with it. I wanted to get rid of my PostgresSQL managed instance, and I couldn't delete it. I had no delete option. And it took some Googling, and I had to stop it, come in here, turn off the deletion protection like so, and then I was able to delete it. So just be aware of that. And I don't think any of this really matters, but just going to scroll through real quick. And yeah, that's fine. Okay, so that's being created. Let's switch back to the project I've already created. So over here, if I scroll down to SQL, you can see I have an instance in this project, also named demo. And once that's spun up, this one does take, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. I know it takes a little while. But once that's done, I don't think I can do it here. Yeah, it won't let me while it's spinning up. So over here, I just went ahead and you actually click into the instance. You won't have those options unless you click in, and you can scroll down, users, add user account. And all I did here was I just called this guy db user. Okay, fine, 1 because he already exists. I'm not going to recreate him, but he was created there. Okay, and here you can see VPC, let's see, Peering. And a moment ago, when we clicked enable, after we selected private IP address, this is what it created. And I'm definitely no expert in any of this. So you can look through there and just see how it's working. But basically, if you look at the IP address of your Postgres instance, there will be an IP route to be able to go to that from your compute instance. Okay, so next thing we'll need is a, compute engine. I guess I'll use those terms interchangeably. And here I spun up a quick one. If you want to know what settings I used, get that out of the way. And I just went through, gave it one region, and here I believe I went E2, and micro is fine. Provisioning, standard or spot. Spot instance meaning if there's another instance in somebody else's project that needs the resources that your VM is consuming, it will shut down your instance. So why is that? Let's see if I can zoom out. See, here it's $7.11 for the month. If I go ahead and say, hey, you know what? It's okay if you stop it on me. It's going to half that price or thereabouts. Let's see here. Here, I prefer Ubuntu. Again, that's just my preference. So you can do Ubuntu. You can even bump that up to, the latest version, but that's fine. And actually, if I go back here, I just want to see $321 per month. If we go ahead, and the OS isn't going to change that, but the disk will. And if we just do standard persistent disk, that's all fine. You see, we save about $1. So depending on your budget, that might be nice. The default account is fine. Let's see, advanced options. Security. Manage access. And so you're going to want a way to connect to your VM instance. If you just Google GCP SSH keygen, Windows or Linux, it'll show you the command. You're going to get a private key and a public key. Probably should put it on my to-do list to make a video, but there's plenty out there and I don't like redoing videos others have already done. But maybe I'll do that in the future and stick a link down in the comments or in the description. But this is where you would add that SSH key. And let's see, I really feel like I'm forgetting something. Let me zoom out and just make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Networking's fine. I do have Ubuntu. I think they may have changed this recently because, oh, there it is. Because it's a spot instance, actually, I think it's because it's a spot instance, yeah. So with the spot instance, like I said, if GCP says, hey, I need those resources, well, this is just going to stop our VM. It's not going to delete it, but we could, just say, hey, go ahead and delete the instance. And I think that's what I did on the other one, and that's been running for a while. Okay, so that's all good, and then you would just hit create. In my case, I have one running already, and I can show that here. Oops. And you see that's running. I have a public IP address. Again, because I'm on Linux, as everyone should be, if I just cd into my .ssh directory and cat out my config file, you can see, if I make it big enough, that is probably, that external IP address is there. When I generated the key, I called it Postgres. The username is Gary, and this is just how, it's a shorthand. SSH knows to look there, so I can get to it like that. If I ls, you see I just have one file, db insert demo.ipynb, IPython notebook. But it also allows you to connect to a host here in Visual Studio. And yeah, so I think that brings us up pretty much to the present. You will need to do a few things here. You will need to install SQL Alchemy. You will need to install a notebook in order to run a notebook like this on your compute engine in GCP. Even though it's forwarded to your local machine, you'll need notebook, and also Psycho PG2. Okay, so what the heck is going on here? Well, let's break this down. So first things first, I'm going to create an engine, and that's pretty standard. This is the user. I call DB user. What's his password? Test. And that IP address probably has changed, so let me see here. .10.9.1.12.3, or actually that might not have changed because that's private IP. And actually, let's see if I can just run it. First though, I'm going to actually open up the query editor. What's that called? Cloud SQL Studio. And here, test. And actually, I think I may have needed to create that here. So create database. You can call this test 2, test 3. I'm just going to leave that as it is, but just be aware when you want to start working with it. Come in here, go to databases, create database. If you want to dig deeper, you can look at setting up users with rights to create databases and do it through Python or the GCP SDK. So if we go to users, again, I have my DB user, and I have my database called test. And let's see here. So test database, I'll go in as DB user with the password test. And you see I don't have any tables here, views, all that's empty. So what this is going to do, and I'm not smart enough to write this. Usually when I do things like this, I actually just make a pandas data frame and append to an existing table or replace if exists. But I just said, hey, ChatGPT, give me an example. I want to insert 3 records. I want Alice, Bob, and Charlie, age 30, 25, and 35. And so if I go ahead and execute that, oh, will it? Really fine. Hopefully that's a quick install. I think I had this where I was kind of in an endless loop before. I'm not sure what's going on there. Pretty sure that didn't execute. So let's do this. Let's do insert.py. That way it'll stop bugging us about the extensions. Thought I had that worked out, but I guess not. There we go. Somehow I deleted part of that. I'm just going to copy all of that, put it here, and make a function. Insert data. Highlight everything. There we go. Control right bracket to indent, and then just if name equals main. Oh, definitely deleting it after that. Those were all my keys. Well, it was just the keys for this demo, so those will be deleted anyway. All right. Insert data. And if you don't know what this is doing, you can kind of wave your hand at it. It's just saying if this is the program that's running, run this function. Yeah. And save it. And because it's being a little bit finicky, I'm just going to control tick mark that key under your escape key. And I forget if it's Python or Python 3. I think Python 3. And insert.py. And just to show there's no sleight of hand here, you can see we have no tables. Oh, forgot a colon. There we go. All right. Control S if you see a solid white circle here. It's not saved. Don't know how many times that gets me. And all right. Not going to bother even reading that. But now we should be able to refresh. And there, we do have a sequence just because ChatGPT is clever. And I think if we look in here, yeah, it says to make it a user ID sequence. But where's the query editor? Actually, we can go here and we can do select star from, I think it's called users. Here we can look back at our code, table name users. If we call this peeps and run it again. Running that, we see those records have now been inserted, and because we ran that again with peeps, we see we actually have 2 tables and that same data is there. Okay, let's see, anything else? Actually, I think this will just add more records, but I'm just kind of curious. Oh, and it returns the records that are in the database. Okay. So yeah, that checks all of them. We do an insert date and return just the ones that we just inserted. Get clever like that. And of course we can come back here and I think I switched that back to users. Yeah. And you see we have the double records now. Okay, well that's it for this video. I'm going to move along into cleanup. So you might want to stick around for that. So here we go. So this one over here, I created in this project. And if we come back and back out to SQL, we can click it, or actually over here, and we can delete and give it the name. If you click on those ellipses and you do not have delete as an option, again, stop the instance, go in and turn off the delete protection. And actually I wonder if I can show that here. It's not on, but if I could show how to do that. Let's see, I think it's edit. Yeah, so you'd want to click into it. I thought you had to stop it, maybe not, but make sure that box is unchecked. And it doesn't seem like an easy way for me to go back out to the dashboard for SQL. I'm sure if I go back and look, there's going to be a button right in the middle of that screen that should be screaming at me. And we'll just do that again. All right. So now that that's deleting, let's go back. And actually, before I take the compute engine down, I'm going to, let's see here. It's odd that it never came back with that. I bet a good restart would do it, but okay. Just for our records, we are going to pip freeze, and we're going to grep SQL alchemy, just in case you have some issues. Or is it pip3 freeze? Why did it not find SQL alchemy? Is it just alchemy? I'm still connected. Well, some of the things I can point out here. Notebook 7.2.1. Psycho PG2. Oh, and that is right. I did have to do Psycho PG2 -binary. So good thing you hung around for the cleanup. I'm guessing that's going to come up in the comments section. Oh, it's case sensitive. Okay. So what I was doing wrong was pip freeze. Linux is case sensitive, as it should be. So SQL Alchemy 2.0.31. And I'll put these down in the description. At least I'll try to remember to put these down in the description. Oh, did I? There we go. Psycho PG2 binary 2.9.9, and then yeah, we had notebook. I'm not sure if that installs with Notebook or if you need to, but if you get an error talking about notebook-shim, well, maybe install that with that version as well. Okay, all that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and yeah, of course, the SSH connection dropped because that instance is now terminating and will be destroyed. So that's it for this video. Hopefully, it kind of gave you a feel of using Postgres as a managed service on GCP, and you can play around with it. I mean, for the cost, if you got 25 cents, it's going to come in way below that. Not something you really need to be scared of, but I held off for a really long time playing with it just because I was like, I will probably be the person that stories will be told about that ran up a huge bill. So hopefully you found this useful, and I'll see you in another video.